What's up, guys? Welcome to Choose Podcast. My name is Salman Ali at Salman Ali NBA on Twitter and Blue Sky. You're joined by Forrest Walker at Do Nots on Blue Sky. How you doing, man?
It is good to be back.
It is good to be back. All right, let's not bury the lead here, Forrest. We are recording this mere hours after the Rockets have acquired Kevin Durant in exchange for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the 10th overall pick, and 5 second-rounders. What are your initial reactions to this trade?
Okay. All right. Can I just grade the trade real quick? Just give you a letter grade before we move on.
Oh, we can both do that. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So I've seen a lot of people grading this as like an A or an A plus from Houston's perspective. I disagree with A plus. I think it's an S.
Oh, okay. It's off the scale.
It's better than A plus. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Make the case.
Yeah. All right. So here's my case for why this trade is incredible for Houston. Incredible, by the way. Not just a really good trade, but someone else I think called it flawless. I think it's right. Which is that case number one, this is pretty much exactly the trade that a lot of Rockets fans were floating around as their dream trade for Kevin Durant, and the one that had other fans calling them delusional for it. So you know it's going to be good for your team, but other people think that such a trade would be ridiculous to happen in the first place. What they've done here is the consolidation trade they needed to do, and they did it by removing a player who has been underwhelming in his role in Jalen Green, and a player who they brought on as basically a development and training wheels player who would be a stopgap until the next era in Dylan Brooks, who's done a fantastic job, by the way. I want to say that Dylan Brooks has done exactly what Houston hoped he would do. He's been great for the team. But that moving on from him in a consolidation trade this is the perfect time to do it, because now it opens up minutes for other players who are coming into their own and ready to play. Mm-hmm. They didn't give up any of the future draft picks from the Suns. They gave up this current number 10 draft pick, but they don't have room for a number 10 player anyway. They kept Jabari Smith Jr., who I think is a better fit next to Kevin Durant than people are ready for. And they gave away a series of second-round draft picks, including, the 60th in this year's draft?
59th, yeah.
Yeah. So this is... They have freed up minutes for players in the rotation who need minutes for them, right? Because if you just give Kevin Durant Jalen Green's minutes, more or less, that's not what's actually going to happen, because he doesn't play the same position as Jalen Green, but he's sort of slotting into his role offensively. And then Thompson's going to get more minutes than last season, obviously. I think they're going to start Jabari Smith Jr. I think there's a debate over what it's going to be like. Who's going to start instead of Dylan Brooks? Will it be Bari, Tari, or something like Cam? I think it's Jabari. I think he earned that by his play in the playoffs. But be that as it may, this opens up more minutes. He's a starter now, so his backup minutes get to go to someone else. Whichever of Tari or Bari doesn't start is going to get substantial six-man type minutes. Substantial, because now you have a clear sixth man. And whoever among those guys does not start is the sixth man. This now frees up more minutes for Cam Whitmore to play, so he can get real development, and frees up some more minutes for Reed Shepherd to play, whom by all accounts they do believe in as a piece going forward and want to seriously develop. Suddenly, the depth is not just a lot of good players. You have an elite starting five, and you have a solid backup to them. And the optimal case is that you win games handily, and then your backups can play real minutes in real games, because you're not worried about trying to eke out every single game by 1 point or what have you. This trade has solved all of their problems in one fell swoop. At least for the time being.
Okay. I'll say this. My initial reaction to this trade, I start off on a different... I think it's actually a pretty fair trade for both sides. People are saying Phoenix got fleeced, right? I actually don't think that's true. I think you have to look at what their cards were, right? KD is going to turn 27 before the season starts. 37. And he has an injury history. So those two things already limit the kind of return they're going to get. And he's on an expiring contract, so he has significant control over what team he goes to, and that also takes away some leverage from Phoenix. Phoenix also doesn't have their pick next year, and they needed to find a deal that kind of got them helpful players back if they weren't going to get their pick back, in the trade itself. Once you take all that into consideration, I think they did okay, right? Like the 10th overall pick is not nothing. Like Jalen Green is probably worth a top 10 selection even now, right? And we'll get into a little bit more about Jalen Green in a second. You got 5 second rounders. I think that's probably equal to like 2.5 first rounders, right? Because
Thereabouts,
yeah. Obviously, you got Dylan Brooks, who's at least worth another first rounder right there, right?
That's a good player who will help them immediately. That's not filler. That's actually a good contract to get.
Yeah, and you can trade him for another first, right? Like if you want to turn around, right? And so I agree with you. I think Kevin Durant always presented the cleanest Jalen Green off ramp for Houston. You and I have both made our feelings about Jalen known. We don't have to get into the weeds about it again. I'll just summarize it this way: the Rockets took a swing on Green to be the guy for their franchise. They missed. It is what it is. They had a lot of swings to take, right? And they hit on a lot and they missed on a lot. I personally wouldn't have taken that swing, but I didn't kill them in the moment for doing it, so I'm not going to kill them right now for doing it. Like, I still think he has a chance to be a very good player, probably even make an all-star team, but he just wasn't good enough to ever be that guy for Houston, and they kind of needed him to be that guy to justify both his role on the team and his contract on the roster. I guess third, Durant himself solves a bunch of tangible on-court problems for the Rockets. Immediately he adds shooting, efficient half-court scoring, and reliable off the dribble presence to close games with. They didn't have any of those last year. It's a hand and glove play. It's cliche. Everyone's saying it. It's true. Everyone's saying it because it's true. Fourth, I guess, my takeaway is I think this likely means an extension is coming down the pipeline for Fred VanVleet soon.
Yeah.
Maybe even by the time this podcast comes out. I suspect he's going to take a pay cut and return on like a 3-year, $96 million contract or something like that, along those lines.
Get more years for fewer per year, basically.
Yeah. And until we know exactly what that is, though, I don't want to talk with certainty about what their cap sheet looks like because we just don't know what their cap sheet looks like. We don't even we don't even know what the trade looks like yet. Like we think we know what it is, but it's not going to be finalized until July 6th. So until we know what the trade is, what VanVleet's situation is, we can't really talk about their cap sheet and what financial instruments they'll have to further improve the roster, right? Because we just don't know.
Yeah.
And it matters. Like if they throw in one more contract, like it's going to make a big difference in terms of what they can do, right?
So I don't know
go ahead.
If they do that, Phoenix basically can't take any more money back. That's one of the craziest things, that Phoenix is actually taking on more money than Houston is.
Well, they can route the third contract
to another
team. To a third team, right? Long term, like this is the kind of deal that still keeps a lot of doors open for them trade wise.
Yes.
Other than Green, they still have all their young players. They still have all their picks, and perhaps most notably, they managed to keep all of the Phoenix picks except for number 10. They may not be at the front of the line for someone like Giannis, but they're still one of the top 5 teams in that conversation, which is remarkable because they just traded for one of the greatest scorers to ever play this game. Number 8 on the list right now and climbing. Number 5, my last takeaway. I wonder if Durant agrees to an extension with Houston after this trade is officially consummated. That's less material, right? Because I still think there's a way this trade works out, even if he doesn't, and maybe even if he walks away, which I know it's a crazy thing to say right now, but I really do. If we want to get into that, I can make my case that way. I love this trade. I wouldn't give it like an S tier, right? Because there's still a chance that Jalen Green surprises us next year and looks like like someone that we didn't think he could be, right? Like there's still that chance. So I'll give this an A, right? I'll give this an A trade. I'll give this on Phoenix like a B+. I think this is a fair trade. I think it solves a lot of problems for Houston. I wouldn't be opposed to someone giving it an A+. Right now I'm at an A. I love this trade.
Yeah, which I do think it's funny that it's so good for Houston. It doesn't necessarily mean it's terrible for Phoenix. I think, as you said, the situation is terrible for Phoenix. I mean, the question that Phoenix people were asking beforehand is, why should Phoenix take less for Kevin Durant? And the answer is because you don't have any choice. Like, I saw a lot of beating on the bush of that. You just don't have any choice. I'm sorry. Like,
Right.
your situation is bad. He's leaving no matter what. It's a classic stars leaving situation. So, yeah, they probably did get as bad as much as they were going to get for him. Clearly, it was better than what the other teams were offering, or they wouldn't have taken it, which says quite a bit of what the other teams were offering. It is very interesting to me that, as I've been thinking of this trade, it actually resets some of the timers for Houston. Like, Houston's been on a clock financially because of the players they have, and this actually, like, Jalen Green in particular being moved, and also moving Dylan Brooks, and theoretically taking a different deal with Fred VanVleet that lowers his salary a little bit. If that all happens, if the Fred VanVleet thing happens in particular, like, they now have a little more time to think about these guys. Like, now signing, let's say, Bari and Tari both for between 20 and 30 million, which I think is sort of probably in the higher range of that is where they're going to end up, I would guess, like both 25 to 30 or something like that. That's a lot more doable now because you have some guys that are coming off the books. You know that Kevin Durant is not going to be like a long-term prospect. Even if they sign an extension with him, it would likely be for 2 seasons, right? 2 more after the upcoming season.
Yeah.
And that is a contract that's going to fall off the books when the cap gets too onerous, and or you could move it. And who knows what their structuring of that trade deal looks like, or that contract looks like once we get to it. We'll have to see what happens regarding it when we get there. I think they're liable to sign an extension because I think part of Kevin Durant's interest in Houston is predicated upon getting an extension. And if they truly believe in Kevin Durant as much as they appear to, then they are happy to give him that extension. But yeah, this actually buys them like another year or two, I think, in terms of a lot of their more difficult decision making.
Yeah, I mean, this in a lot of ways this is also similar to the trade they made last year in a different kind of way, but similar. Like, so when they traded all those Brooklyn picks to kick the can down the road for Phoenix picks down like that are into the future, this is similar in that way, right?
Yeah.
Financially, in the way that you described, and also pick wise, they don't have to take a number 10 this year, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's alleviating that pressure of adding young players onto the roster. Like, I don't think we fully understood when they made that James Harden trade how much of a logjam the roster could become, right?
Yeah.
And we got to the point where, like, all right, like, there has to be some sort of consolidation. This is a consolidation of some sort. There may be even more down the line, but Houston doesn't have to do that now anymore.
Yeah. They've also bought more time for one of their other players to potentially develop into a 1A type player.
Yeah.
Like, instead of going, we need Amen or Alperen to like figure it out sooner than later. Our offense is not operational. This offense is going to be operational, right? It's going to be better than last season, no question.
Can I add something?
Oh yeah,
this is a real big test for Ime Udoka now. Because like last year, you could get away with, okay, like, this is, we know you don't necessarily have the goods, right? Now you can't say that anymore, right? Like, now you're gonna have some pressure to create like a good. You just got your contract extension, right? Like you're comfy. The roster is very good. You should be able to create at least a much better offense than what we got last year.
Top 10 should be the baseline. Like, if they're like a 9th best offense, that's like fine. But if they're like 11th, that's not good. Like, with Kevin Durant in your offense and with all these guys continuing to grow, these are young players who should be getting better year after year. This is a coach who should be figuring things out year after year. Like, if they can't figure out a top 10 offense, that's actually a bad thing. That being said, I do think perhaps one of the most important things they can do this offseason is to buff up that coaching staff's offensive experience. I think they should try to hire some guys who have been in high octane offenses. Like, I don't know that they have the talent in the coaching staff. I think they need to take a long, hard look at that he might need some assistance to help him with that. I think they might need that more than making other personnel moves, actually. Like, if they finish making personnel moves tomorrow after re-signing Fred VanVleet, that's honestly an excellent offseason.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know, right? Like I just don't know what Ime Udoka looks like with like a very competent offensive roster, right? Like I guess the Celtics team presents some sort of example, but there was a lot of frustration there, and a lot of that talent was burgeoning, right? Whereas a lot of this talent is not we kind of know what direction Şengün is headed in. We kind of
Yeah.
know, like, I mean, we know what Kevin Durant is, right? Like we know what Fred VanVleet is, right? Like so this talent is much more clear cut, and you just kind of have to figure out how you want to structure it, and you have to figure out a way to make it good. I think it's going to require a lot more ball movement. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot ball movement and player movement. I think, like particularly from Kevin Durant, like what I saw in Phoenix last year was a player that was unwilling to move, right? Like, and I think that it makes sense, right? Like when you look at what their season devolved into, I
Yeah.
don't blame him too much, right? But like he's gonna have to move more, right?
Yeah. He can't be checked out in
Yeah.
Houston at all.
Well, yeah, and I think it helps that he wanted to be here. It helps that he has a relationship with Ime Udoka. It helps that he has a relationship with Royal Ivy, right? Who's also on the coaching staff, right?
Sure.
There were there were a lot of signs that this was going to happen, or that this could have happened before ahead of time, but like there was just that incentive wasn't there, right? That high end incentive wasn't there. Other than, well, other teams don't seem to really be pouncing on him. If the price is really going to be this, why shouldn't we do it? Right? That's pretty much what forced this trade to happen.
Yeah. And what I'll say about Kevin Durant's regular season performance is that he has to give, as you said, more effort than he did in Phoenix, which I think would be a hard bar to clear on the bad side.
Mm-hmm.
I do think one advantage Houston has is that they don't have to run him as much as Phoenix did. They don't need to run him 36, 37 minutes a game. Houston can run him closer to 32 minutes a game, maybe even like below that if it turns out that he needs the extra rest.
There has to be a hard cap there on the minutes for sure.
Yeah. I mean, playoffs, different animal. But in the regular season, yes, they need to have a maintenance plan, but they can do a maintenance plan. This is a team that is deep enough that if they have Kevin Durant out there spearheading the offense and creating opportunities for guys during, 32 minutes a night, whatever the bench brings in will hopefully be good enough, because that bench is not incompetent on offense, and they're only going to grow.
I just want to read the depth chart for this team really quick.
Let's go.
This is your starting lineup. Kevin Durant, Alperen Şengün, Ben Thompson. We got confirmation from Kelly Iko that he is going to be in the starting lineup. Absolutely. Fred VanVleet, and it looks like Jabari Smith is going to be the fifth. So that's a pretty damn good starting unit. Like there's shooting almost like this is the one issue. The spacing could be problematic because you still have Thompson and Şengün. I want to see what kind of growth Thompson made as a floor spacer next year. I think you're probably going to, if he hasn't made much, I think you're probably still going to play him as a dunker spot player. Şengün, we'll see if he is more willing to take those threes next year. Off the bench, you have Steven Adams, Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepherd. I think they're going to bring back Aaron Holiday because it's such a cheap $4 million. It's not, why wouldn't you bring him back? We'll see what happens with Jeff Green and Jock Landale. Landale has a team option. Jeff Green is just a free agent. So I think Jeff Green wants to be back.
Yeah, that's the vibe I get as well.
Yeah, and I think with Landale, I kind of suspect, like, if we're talking about this trade isn't done, I think Landale might be one of the guys that's moved. Him or I'm forgetting
Jason
Jonathan Williams, right?
I was gonna say you have to talk about what's going on with Jason Tate as well. He's not an insignificant part of that bench.
Yeah, well, he's a free agent. That's the issue. I'm not sure what I mean. Again, I was gonna get into the financial instruments and stuff. Like we don't know what they have to use on. Like if they have their MLE, right? Maybe they bring back Jeff Green. Maybe they don't even need their MLE for Jeff Green. Maybe he comes back on a minimum. If they have their MLE though, they have more to work with on the market to chase guys, right? But we just don't know until this trade's finalized and until we know what Fred VanVleet, his new contract is. Whether they decide to pick up that option or extend him, I think most likely they extend him. We'll see what it looks like. But let's just say they stopped at Reed Shepherd. Steven Adams, Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepherd. That's a damn good bench.
That's, yeah. That's 4 guys. That is more than a playoff rotation. That is enough to get you through a regular season. I mean, honestly, you want one more reliable. You want to have 10 reliable guys in regular season, but
You can
like,
get that on a minimum, though. You
yeah,
know?
you can get that on a minimum. If
Yeah.
Jeff Green comes back, or someone's going to want to play with this team on a minimum, whether it's Jeff Green or not, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tari Eason. I've started saying this already. Start looking at the Tari Eason 6-Man of the Year awards. Like this, if he is consistently coming off the bench, he is going to get a lot of minutes off the bench. He is going to be 6-man minutes. He's good. He fits with any lineup, and he is going to play in crunch time frequently because of his defense and his explosiveness. We've seen this. We know how Tari Eason plays. He is not going to be a bench guy. He is going to be a 6-man type, especially because the other guys you mentioned, Steven Adams, he is excellent in the right situation, but he is kind of situational.
We should also mention that they brought him back on a contract extension, which, I mean, pretty good deal, by the way.
Yeah.
Like
13 a year, right? And declining.
They got a couple pieces of business done since the last time. They got Ime Udoka done on a multi-year extension. Steven Adams, like they have a lot of continuity going despite this trade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that is what you probably this trade is so special, is that they did keep all these like glue players that they're paying for. Yeah, Steven Adams, he's gonna play. He's gonna be on a minutes restriction surely because of his age and is still coming off of injury, which is that's gonna linger forever. It's fine. Mm-hmm. That's part of the price of Steven Adams, but he's not gonna be playing like 6-man minutes. Reed Shepherd is not gonna be playing 6-man type minutes. Cam Whitmore's not gonna be playing 6-man type minutes. Cam and Reed are going to play more next season. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's no question they're going to play more. But it's not going to be the same kind of minutes Tari's playing. Tari is going to be... He's going to score more. He's going to have more opportunities. He's going to play more off the bench. This is a 6-Man of the Year candidate.
Can we entertain the idea that he starts?
I mean, if he starts, that's even better because it means he forced his way into the starting lineup.
Well, the reason I asked this is the one question I have about this team that didn't get resolved in this trade is the spacing in that starting lineup, right? It's still the same. I guess, you approved on Jalen Green, right? It's a much better space team now that Jalen Green, I mean, he just wasn't reliably hitting 3-pointers at a clip you needed to hit him. So it's a better, 3-point shooting team in that way, but it is still 2 non-shooters. Right, like that's what it was before the trade. That's what it still is now, right? And the one way to get around that is you make one of these guys a 6-man, whether that's Şengün or Thompson. I think more likely it would be Thompson, and then you start Eason, or maybe you go small, maybe you go the other way. Maybe you start Jabari at center and you have Şengün come off the bench. I don't think that's likely. I don't think either option is likely. I think it's really hard to bench any of those 2 guys because they're probably the 2 best young players on the roster.
And Amen may, as early as next season, be the best player on the roster. Well, that's the dream.
I mean, listen, like,
who knows?
he was an absolute beast. He was an absolute beast in the playoffs. He was an absolute beast to close the season. He was legitimate. Like I remember when I was on podcast, like people didn't know a lot of people didn't know how good Amen Thompson was defensively last year. I remember I was on a bunch of podcasts, and I would say, like, I would watch for this guy to make an all-defensive team. Like, this guy's pretty freaking phenomenal defensively. And people would be like, really? Like, because he just wasn't a household name yet. He became a household name.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just solely based on the defense. I think that game against the Warriors had a lot to do with it towards the close of the season. And obviously the playoffs, right? Like, he was the same level of defensive beast in the playoffs. But it's just hard. It's hard to bench one of these guys. So I think you may just have to make it work, right? Which is going to require more of Udoka, right? This is going to be a pretty big, like, show it season for Udoka.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that also might happen. One of the biggest, as people have noted to me in particular, I'm right to say it, one of the things that might actually cause a problem for Tari Eason's 6-man candidacy is that they may just choose to start him, not like, as you say, for the season, but this might be a starting lineup that is flexible depending on the opponent. Like, they have enough guys who are starting caliber that it might just be some nights they start Bari for size, some nights they start Tari for shooting, some nights they bench Amen to take advantage of a thin bench unit,
Mm-hmm.
they have options. But that also, as you say, is going to be a test for Ime Udoka, because now that he has the tools to do this, now that the expectations are higher, he's going to have to make good. He's going to have to use these tools. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. This is not an evaluation season any longer. Last season was still an evaluation season. They were still figuring out what they had and what they can do with them. They need to know what they have and what they can do with them now.
I will contend this. I think it's still a little bit of an evaluation season in that we don't know what the ceiling of Şengün and Thompson is yet. Right? We think we know. Right? We think we know. We don't know, we don't know now. And like, as good as Kevin Durant is, he's never been the straw that stirred the drink. He's never been that guy. He's always been like a, it's weird to say this, but he's been a complimentary superstar.
Well, he's like
Right?
the best pressure valve possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And like, one of these guys has to, or like maybe if they don't go for a heliocentric offense, if they go for something that is more ball movement, player movement happy, maybe you don't have to do that. But if you do go for a more traditional, one guy has the ball, one guy stirs the drink, like one of these guys has to emerge as that guy to start possessions with, like, and like, is that Thompson? Is that Şengün? Like that's something to watch for next season. I suspect they're going to try and avoid that question as long as possible, right? Not because they're afraid of it, but because they don't have to solve it yet, right? But we'll see. Like I do still think there's some evaluation to be learned, especially you mentioned Tari Eason as someone to watch for. I have like right here, all caps, Cam Whitmore. This guy, out of anyone on the roster, is the biggest winner today because he was just buried at the end of the bench. I think some of that was because of how the coaching staff felt about him. Some of that was just the reality of the roster. The reality of the roster is different today, right? Dylan Brooks is gone. Jalen Green is gone, right? Like, there is a gaping hole there for scoring on the perimeter after Fred VanVleet and Kevin Durant. Cam Whitmore can be that guy, right? And if they don't go out and they use their MLE, if they just stay with the roster, I mean, not only can Cam Whitmore stand to benefit from this, Reed Shepherd could as well, right? Like those two. I mean, now Ime can play those guys. He can actually credibly play those guys and see what they have.
Yeah, I mean, both of them were stuck behind a pile of guards. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And Reed has a chance to jump Aaron Holiday this season if he makes a jump. Like if he gets better, he can jump Aaron Holiday or whoever they have instead of Aaron Holiday. But I agree that it's probably going to be Aaron Holiday with you. Cam has shown some things that I think are worrying and some things I think are encouraging. And he's going to get a chance to show us more of the latter in this upcoming season. The thing I like about Cam is that he wants to do bad things to people. Anytime he gets on the court, he wants to do bad things.
Certainly not afraid. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's great, especially for the position he's going to be in, which is killing bench units and proving himself valuable. He is going to, with like, what do you think he's going to get? Like 20 minutes a game or something like that, depending on how it goes.
Yeah, I would say 18 minutes a game. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I am ready for him to make the most of those minutes. Mm-hmm. he is unafraid. One thing I want to see is that I think the formula for Houston going forward offensively is that you want to have 3 guys you have to double on that team. Kevin Durant's already a guy you got to double. They don't got to worry about that. He's there. He's been there for 15 years. Kevin Durant's Kevin Durant. He demands a double. Alperen Şengün needs to always demand a double. We saw him get single coverage from the Warriors, from Draymond Green, and they were able to contain him sufficiently with that. Now, Draymond Green is one of the smartest defenders of all time.
Yeah,
we're going to see if Şengün can come back and show that he also must be doubled. I think he has the potential to be one of those type of guys. I think he might be one of those type of guys. His post game is scary. He can eat up anyone smaller than him under the basket. And then Amen Thompson needs to also develop into one of those guys. Amen Thompson's possibility space is whether it's from increased shooting, whether it's from becoming a triple threat player, whether it's from his sheer size and speed and athleticism, wherever it comes from, he needs to demand a double team as well. Because having 3 guys on the floor that demand a double team is how you break down opposing defenses. Whatever scheme it is that Udoka makes to take advantage of this, and the NBA coaches are a million times smarter about this stuff, but once you have 3 guys that scare opponents and force them to bend their defense, that's when you can really make hay. And that's when you can have the other 2 guys on the floor also scoring in piles because they're getting open looks.
Yeah. I'm really curious to test my theory that Şengün was still recovering from injury last year, right? Because I think that you're right in that he immediately becomes like he's the second release valve on this team. Like he's the second like go-to scorer, if not the fulcrum of the offense, like passing wise, right? And so a lot of possessions may start with him, and he's got to be much more efficient than what he showed last year. He's got to be at least where he was the year before last year. I think like that season-ending injury that he had, I think it carried over into the season following. I can't find anything for the life of me to explain why he just fell off a cliff.
Whole year,
yeah, like why he fell off a cliff efficiency-wise like that. I don't. Teams were not defending him differently. Like, do not tell me that. By this point, 2 years ago, the secret was out on Şengün, right? Like it didn't just happen last year, right? Like the scouting report's been out on him. Don't tell me that teams are guarding him differently. I think something either mentally or physically happened with him to where he fell off a little bit efficiency wise. He even talked about it. Like he said, I think at the end of the season, he had a quote saying, "I was worse offensively this year than I was last year." Right? So I think I want to see, can he get back to can he at least get back to where he was the year before last? If not, can he improve upon that? And if he does improve upon that, how much? Right? Because how much dictates where they sit in this league hierarchy, right? And that's, I guess, what we can talk about that next. I look at the Western Conference, the only team that, like, for sure I think is better than Houston is Oklahoma City. And the 2 teams that scare me outside of Oklahoma City are Denver and the Lakers. And, like, really, like, I think Houston has a chance in a series against both of those teams. I think I put them there because you have the best player in the league in Nikola Jokic, and the Lakers have Luka and LeBron, and I think that means something. And we have to see what they're going to do this offseason to complement those guys. But, like, those are the 3 teams that are kind of at least at their level, but I think they can probably get past 2 of them. Like, I think the one team I think Houston is still looking up at is Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I agree. As of today, right now, the 22nd of June, 2025, OKC is definitively better than Houston.
Yeah.
They're also definitively better than everyone else.
Right.
Which is not like, it's not shameful for them to be better than you. They're ludicrously talented. They're one of the most talented teams I've ever seen. So, but that currently is a situation there. I do think that they are, in this moment, in tier with the Nuggets and
the Lakers.
The Lakers,
yeah.
And we'll see what
happens.
Guess
you got to count the Timberwolves.
You got to count the Timberwolves. Yeah. That's the thing, is that I think teams that are good enough to be a contender, there's actually a few of them in the West. Like Nuggets, Wolves, Lakers. I mean, and we're giving the Lakers honestly a lot of credit given what we saw from them in the playoffs, like a month ago. Like maybe their team gets better, but right now we're still giving them a lot of credits because the Timberwolves took them apart.
Yeah, I guess to me, I never. This is my bias coming through. I never bought this Timberwolves team, right? And I buy that Lakers team more than I buy that Timberwolves team. I just don't like the fit of that team, and whatever it is, they made it work. But like, that's kind of my bias coming through, to be honest.
Well, they have a center, which is a thing that the Lakers can't deal with currently.
Sure.
That's a big problem for the Lakers. They don't have a center. Yeah. But I think there's no one other than the Thunder that, to me, are ahead of the Rockets in this moment. I mean, that was a little bit already the case, but because the West is also really good. The thing is that the West is really good. There's a lot of teams who, if they get it going on a given night, they have the veterans and the know-how to beat basically anybody.
You got the Clippers, you got the Warriors. Like you got a lot of good teams for sure.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy, I think. But that tier of like one injury away from winning the title, I think Houston's firmly in that tier.
Oh yeah. I mean, if like Chet Holmgren sprains his ankle or something,
Yeah.
then suddenly the Rockets can totally beat the Thunder in a playoff series. As of today, again, we don't know what's going to happen during offseason. The offseason hasn't even really begun yet. This is the day of the last day of the NBA Finals, so we're discussing this very early in the process. We have
Yeah.
like a month and a half of stuff happening before we really know where we're at.
Right.
But right now, this is a huge upgrade for them. They are positioning themselves to win now without hurting their future meaningfully, and in fact, in some ways, making their near future simpler and easier. Like the guys they moved are guys who they needed to move soon anyway. So this is a huge win for them. I'm excited to see what they do with this because Kevin Durant is, as you mentioned, he's an incredible player, but he's not a he's not a floor raising player. He's not the same kind of like MVP who makes everyone better in the same way like a Steph Curry or somebody is.
He's a ceiling raiser. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a ceiling raiser. He's a guy that when things go bad, he will score points for you, but he's not out there making the opportunities for other guys as much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, like it's a big upgrade, but you have to note that, right? You just do. It's the reality of who the player is that the Rockets are getting. But I mean that's also like why they didn't trade for Giannis. That guy just wasn't available, right? That floor raiser just wasn't there right now.
There's so few of those guys in the league at all, and you don't get to choose when they come available.
Sure,
you only get to choose what you do in response to who does come available.
And the Rockets made a choice today, and it's a pretty significant choice. But I do think it's a choice that does not come with too much risk. As you and I said, we still like the trade, even if like, I mean, I guess this is just me. What I said, even if Kevin Durant walks away next offseason, I still like the trade as an off ramp for Jalen Green. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's go into that, which is that about at the start of this last season, Dillon Brooks was not considered a positive asset by most people. Like this Dillon Brooks contract,
I don't know. Most people, okay, fair. Yeah. Most people,
but like the attitude on Dillon Brooks' contract got better in his first season in Houston, and even better in the second season. Because when they signed that contract, people were like, "What is this? This is not good."
People. Let's just say people, not me. Not me.
Not you.
Okay,
not smarter heads, but like the perception of these assets has gotten better over time. But like, and Jalen Green's contract has, when they signed that contract, a lot of people thought that was a bad deal too, which they were shooting the gap into that contract, and it turns out they've done it. These are two contracts that many people have thought would be good to move on from on their own merits. Is kind of the point I'm getting to.
As a dump. Yeah. At one point in time, people talked about them as dump contracts.
And they're definitely perceived as better than now, especially Dillon Brooks, who has earned the respect he's gotten. But even so, as I mentioned earlier, Dillon Brooks was a signing that was meant to bridge eras. I don't think Dillon Brooks is ever conceived of as being the long-term solution for the Houston Rockets at his position. They always knew that he was a plug-and-play guy that they would move on from when it was time. So that being said, if they had just traded those guys for like a first-round draft pick or something, if they traded them for basically nothing, right? They move on from these two players for nothing.
Expiring salary, sure.
Yeah. You'd be like, well, that sucks to lose them, but they probably needed to move on anyway. And that's why this trade is really special to me, is that, like, as you say, even if Kevin Durant leaves in this coming summer, even if he leaves for nothing, it's actually improved the team's prospects.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, this is why the Rockets like dumped all those first round picks that they selected with all those second rounders, right? They attached because they wanted to uncomplicate the roster, and they did that again today. And it makes the analysis of the roster much easier. I still think there's some analysis to be done. I want to see how good Cam Wimmer is. I want to see how good Reed Shepherd is. I want to see how the heights that Şengün and Thompson can get to. And Jabari, like
And
Jabari, yeah,
Jabari really impressed me in the playoffs. He
yeah,
was able to hit open shots reliably, and that's something this team badly needs. And I think that's going to buy him a ticket to the starting lineup
yeah,
alone.
for sure. And I'll say this, like, I think Dylan Brooks is like a people are talking about him as if he's not going to be like he like was a very easy to plug into the starting lineup kind of player. That is a big guy to give away, and sure, it's Kevin Durant. It's a no, still a
Yeah.
no brainer, but like you can't just replace like he's not the same player as Tari Eason. Tari Eason can't guard guys on the perimeter the same way Dylan Brooks can, right? He can't
Yeah.
he can't slide his feet in that same way, right? So it's gonna take some creativity on Ime Udoka's part to kind of make up for it. Maybe they play a lot more zone next year. Actually, I think that's a possibility, right?
His role is going to be taken over by a few different guys. Yes, he had a versatility that is hard to see. People don't like Dylan Brooks, so they think he's a bad player, but he is a plus player, very obviously.
Yeah, I think Thompson probably is the simplest answer, right? To guard those perimeter talents, and that's probably why he gets a starting spot next year, right? But whatever the case, I'm excited, man. I'm really excited to see this team. This roster is a lot better next year, and yes, he's 37. Yes, or he's turning 37 in September. Yes, he's not expiring, but the Rockets are replacing Jalen Green's production with Kevin Durant. Like we need to really sink that in for a second because it's a pretty big upgrade.
And we're going to see. And some people will say, "Well, but how are you going to replace a 2 guard with a guy who plays like a 3.5, basically historically?" The answer is, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like this Houston Rockets team is an example of positionless basketball, basically. Like the starting lineup we've described, it is almost certain to happen on opening night. That VanVleet, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith Jr., Alperen Schengen starting 5. That's not a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's arguably
like,
2 1s, 2 4s, and 2 5s. It's arguably right.
Yeah, This is positionless basketball at its highest. Like, as long as they can do all the stuff on the court they need to and defend how they need to, why does it matter what position guys play? And this is a team that's going to have to embrace that ideology that like you don't have to have the things that the team's supposed to have. You just have to have the skill sets. And also, that lineup is so tall and so long. It's going to be such a problem for people to shoot over and get rebounds on.
Yeah. And I do question, like, does that make are they going to be a slower team, and like how does that factor in? But maybe it's better if they're a slower team because maybe that works better into the to Fred VanVleet and Alperen Şengün and other players that could not keep up with Jalen Green and that style of basketball.
Yeah, I mean hopefully they'll play however suits their talent pool. Which you're right.
Yeah.
This roster also makes a lot more sense in general now.
Yeah,
like they have to hope that all these guys pan out, because if all these guys pan out to being like good enough for their role, right? Like if Cam Wimmer doesn't have to become a star. He just needs to be a solid bench rotation player. That's all the Rockets need from him. Same like Reed Shepherd. Who knows what his ceiling is, but if he's just like a good guard off the bench, that's honestly fine. That's not a problem. Like this lineup, even without any real tweaks, it makes sense in a way that the previous year's lineup didn't actually. Like by clearing out some of that log jam, you have a lineup that fits better together. Like this is, if you can manage to keep all those guys, this is a real roster. This is a roster that can operate in both regular season and postseason situations, which is pretty remarkable for a team that is largely built by drafting.
Yeah, I mean that's listen, like they're transitioning to a win now phase. It makes sense. It's year 5, and Rafael Stone's plan has worked out pretty. I don't want to say flawlessly, right? There have been flaws, but like very recoverable flaws, and like this has been like, I guess if you were to map out a rebuild, like the possible paths the rebuild could have gone, this is definitely in the higher end of those outcomes.
It's better than reasonable expectations is the way I would
for sure. I mean, look at some of these other rebuilds around the league, right? So many of them just fall flat on their face, and people don't even pay attention to them. Like think about the Wizards, the Hornets. Like there have been rebuilds across the NBA that have just not panned out. And
Oh, most of them don't.
yeah,
Most rebuilds do not pan out. It's rare for it to happen.
yeah. And the Rockets, are going to be one of those teams where it probably does pan out. But we'll have to see. I'm excited to watch them next year. I'm excited to watch them in Summer League. Hell, like I want to see Cam and Reed in Summer League. Hopefully they play. And yeah,
You
we'll
gotta
see.
play someone.
Yeah. and we'll see what they do with the rest of their summer. We'll see what this cap sheet looks like. We'll see what how a Reed how a Fred VanVleet extension looks like. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys down the line.
Hell yeah.